Hello, I'm Tony Pearson-Young and welcome to the Dulux Academy podcast. This week we are going to be discussing the very serious subject of mental health. As I said last time, it's been a tough time for people in the world of decorating over the past few months, and for some of us it's only made the challenges they faced 6 months ago feel even worse. As a trade, many professionals have been hugely affected by mental health issues, and as it is World Mental Health Day this week, we wanted to talk about the challenges faced on and off the job, how working in isolation doesn't need to be lonely, and where you can turn to for support. Today I'm joined by Dulux Select decorators and trained mental health first aiders Tony McCawley and Sean Kelly, as well as the CEO of the Rainy Day Trust, Bryan Clover, to discuss how to keep our minds happy and healthy. Bryan, I wanted to start by asking about some of the basics around mental health, but firstly, who are the Rainy Day Trust?
The Rainy Day Trust is the only charity that's dedicated to looking after people in the home improvement industry. So that's people that work in DIY, builders, merchants, housewares, garden centres, and also the tradesmen and tradeswomen that use the products to do that. So painters and decorators, plumbers, leckies, roofers, and their dependents. So anyone in that industry or sector is in our footprint. And we've been around since 1843, so we've been doing it an awfully long time. And we now try and help beyond just straight financial help. So we'll tackle all sorts of other different problems that sit behind financial difficulties.
Yeah, I'm sure they've developed quite a lot since the bygone era, so I'm sure some of those stresses and strains and the help that's needed over the years has changed quite considerably.
Yeah, it has. I mean, everybody has a bad day, and it's not a bad day that really causes a mental health issue. It's something that sits behind it. It might be bereavement, it might be job worries, it might be kids with ADHD, marital problems, all sorts of different things. Mental health problems impact on your ability to carry out your job on a day-to-day basis and to live your life. So what we aim to do is help people to tackle those issues and problems and give them some control back. If you control what's happening in your life and are able to tackle those problems yourself, you're much more likely to get a long-term solution, not a passing one. So 80% of people in the UK any one day suffer from stress or anxiety. And that's you, me, it's everybody else who might be listening to this call.
Wow, that's a really high figure. I never would have imagined it was that high.
Yeah, some of it's transitory. Some of it might be short-term problems. It might be, are you worried about getting enough work at the moment? You get a new contract, you get a new permanent placement, you're fine. Problem goes away. But some of it, bereavement, marital problems, mental health difficulties like bipolar, like depression, they're not short-term fixes. They go on for an awfully long time, and they might stay with you for the rest of your life. So we would aim to stay with people as long as it takes.
Oh, wow. That's superb. Thank you. Tony and Sean, as decorators who have experienced this firsthand, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences facing these mental health challenges? So, Tony, if I could ask you.
Yeah, as decorators, I think one of the biggest problems that we have is most of us work on our own. And some of us choose to, but it can be a lonely world. And one of the biggest hard things for people is to speak and to share the problems and that. And men traditionally don't speak. It's manly, or not manly to speak. And then there's big campaigns going on at the moment. I'm ex-forces, and one of the worst ones is big roughy tufty soldiers that don't want to speak. But the saying now is it's okay to not be okay.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm sure, that mental image we all have of a soldier who they're protecting is supposed to be strong in mind and strong in body. I suppose some of them probably feel embarrassed or even inadequate if they think they're struggling mentally. So that must be very difficult. So what's your experience been from the forces, and have you brought that into the decorating world?
Especially over the last few years, it's become very prominent, PTSD, Afghanistan, etc. But that goes back to all the other wars. I know my grandfather never spoke about the war, which is such a shame. I suffer with PTSD myself. That's hence why I used to be what was known as the welfare officer, and that role included the mental health training, which I did. I've personally helped a number of soldiers or ex-soldiers, personal friends. One of them was on the brink, and she almost did take her own life. I was able to just chat to her via messenger, and then take her for help. And she's I say back on the straight. She'll never be back on the straight. As Bryan said, some people will suffer for their life, and the issues that she spoke about on our long journey, from that 5-hour car journey to get her some treatment, were just sort of mind blowing. And like, God, no wonder you've got so many issues. But I think the thing that saved her was her little boy. I think he's about 10, 11 years of age. And she sort of came through from her overdose, and that's what got her through and has given her the will to sort of battle on, I suppose.
And with your support and some kind words and I suppose a mental holding her hand.
It took a few days chatting to her on sort of messenger. And some of it was just normal chat, and some of it was the times that she'd been through, and the time that she did try and take her own life. But I don't chat to her very often now, and I hadn't chatted to her for years. But it's one of the comradeships of military life, that someone's always your friend. It doesn't matter how long it was the last time you saw them, and it doesn't matter whether you're military or not military. Mental health's mental health. And I think the biggest thing is having somebody to chat to. In today's world, with Zoom, Facebook, Messenger, WhatsApp, etc., it doesn't make it a lot easier for people. Some people don't like talking face to face. 2 years ago, I wouldn't be sat here explaining my issues and that. Well, I will talk about them now. I won't go deep into them, but I'm happy to admit it. I know I've got problems. I'm getting help. It's probably going to be with me for the rest of my life. But yeah, it's all changed. And what Select have done by training people like Sean and the other guys, and making it out there that we can contact each other for a chat and not feel that the world is against you. You're not the only one. We all have bad days, bad customers, problems in life. And it's been great that we've seen, especially on the Facebook forums, where people have just been offering each offering work out. I think for everybody, it is a strange time with COVID, and it does cause a lot of stress and anxiety. Whereas at the beginning, nobody wanted to sit in their house. We couldn't get any paint, but we still got to live.
Yeah, and by chatting and supporting each other, we can take little steps and move forward, can't we?
We can.
Excellent. Sean, can I come over to you now? And what pressures have you felt and still feel personally with regards to your own mental health?
I've had a bit of a mental health episode just a week or so ago. Still almost like recovering from it now. Just the pressure of not looking at the techniques that I know I've got in my cupboard. That I had a lot of time off over the lockdown period, and now I've actually gone back to work. I've almost like let my clients put so much pressure on me that it's really affected my mental health. And actually, last Friday, I really hit rock bottom, and I posted, as Tony just alluded to, I posted on the Dulux Select Facebook forum about everyone else's mental health, and just saying that mine is not great at the moment. very quickly I had 3 or 4 decorators ringing me up, basically talking to me, making it almost like feel okay, and just the talking therapy that I got offered 5-6 years ago at the height of my mental health episode. It started me on the road to recovery again. But subsequently to last Friday, I've probably spent 6 to 8 weeks, poor sleep, being pressured by clients, poor diet, all the things that I know affect my mental health. That over the last 5 or 6 years, I've been able to adjust myself and manage my mental health so much better. And just last Friday, I really felt so weak, but almost like blaming myself for how I was feeling, and again, as Tony alluded to or mentioned, having the network of other decorators, and to be able to able to reach out to, and almost like somebody who is again, I'm working with a local mental health charity, training to be a counsellor in mental health. But even then, I've let myself get to a point where pressures have led to my own mental health being weak.
Yeah, but I'm sure the way that you are speaking about it so openly here, you can start to see those signs within yourself. And you touched on the tools that you have in your box. You can dig deep for those tools, albeit through your own admittance, maybe a little later than you should, but you can pick up those tools, and by the sounds of it, you are getting stronger and stronger. So what
100%,
yeah.
100%.
What are these tools, though? Explain what one of the little traits that you have that you start to recognise, and what will help you try and turn things around for yourself.
For me, it's going to be exercise. It's going to be getting out and improving my physical health, which I learned a better physical health is going to improve my mental health. And whereas while during that 6 to 8 weeks of a manic episode of work, I didn't get out on my bike, or very, very occasionally did I get out on my bike. And so by now getting out and doing the cycling, I feel recovery is ongoing now.
Yeah, I've seen on Strava you've done some amazingly long rides there, Sean. Fantastic.
Yeah, and it's what I love. It's what I love, and B, it's what I know is good for me.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm the same, as you well know. We're both training for the Dulux London Revolution, and I've taken up cycling this year, and through lockdown, it has helped me as well. Probably more so now I can reflect and look back than I thought it was doing at the time. I loved the freedom of being out and about on an empty road, but in looking back and reflecting, it also gave me a time to kind of think about things in my own isolation and not being with the family. Yes, it was great being with the family, spending extra time, but sometimes you just need to be on your own to collect your own thoughts and a bit of calmness.
100%.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Bryan, your organisation, the Rainy Day Trust, as you say, is the only charity supporting the home improvement workforce and their families in time of need. So we often hear that it's good to talk, but how do you actually help the people within our industry?
Basically, in a number of ways. I mean, one of the things that we do is we encourage people to be open and honest with us at the beginning when they make contact with us. And as Sean and Tony have said, talking to your colleagues is incredibly important. It's not just a case of you talking, but it's a case of them listening. And there's a difference. There's a real difference here. You can talk about what issues you may have, but if the person you're talking to changes the subject because they find it difficult to listen to, that isn't going to do you any good. So we encourage people to listen and really listen and challenge and respond. And that's quite difficult to do sometimes. So part and parcel of it, like we go out and talk to businesses and talk to line managers in particular and explain to them that when Joe Bloggs comes in and talks to them and says, I've got this problem, whatever that problem might be, to actually give them time. And that means putting the pen down, turning the laptop away and really listening to what these people are saying. And you may not have the skill set to actually deal with it, but then understand and signpost them to us. And we encourage that communication at a business level. We will then look at what that person's issues and problems are, because like I said at the beginning, there's always something sat behind it. It might be it's a physiological issue that's causing the problem. It might be financial worries. Typically at the moment, people are worried about work. So we will aim to try and tackle those financial problems that sit behind the issues. It might be that we're helping them retrain, get a new skill. It might be that we're giving them free telephone counselling. I mean, during lockdown, face-to-face counselling stopped. I mean, and it still hasn't restarted. I've been in counselling for 2.5 years since my daughter died, and I've been doing my counselling over the telephone every fortnight for an hour. So actually, telephone counselling is really useful. Zoom counselling, yeah, if it works for you, do it. But we'll encourage people to talk, and we encourage people to listen, and that's the real big difference. And then what we do is we wrap around our other services. So free debt advice, if you've got debt problems. And it's not just somebody saying, oh, you're spending too much, don't spend so much. It's about getting control of your debt and a debt solution plan in place, helping you control it and understand it. Mr. Barclaycard would far rather you give him £5 a week against your debt than you go bankrupt and he gets nothing out of the 10,000 you might owe him. It's about housing advice. It's about counselling to deal with all of your problems. It's about understanding what's happening in your household. And we do that. We don't just look at you owe 250 quid on your water bill or 350 quid on your electricity. It's understanding the background picture. And that, I hate the word holistic, but it is a holistic approach. That means that we can tackle the whole problem. And at the end of it, what we want is somebody who can go back to work, function properly. They're dealing with what's going on in the background, be it with their kids or their wife or their family, and maybe granny's got breast cancer or something. And those issues aren't overwhelming anymore. I mean, I understand exactly what Sean and Tony have been talking about. When my daughter died, I walked into the kitchen to make a cup of tea, and I couldn't remember how to make a cup of tea. I just stood there staring at the kettle, and my wife came in and said, "What are you doing?" I went, "I don't remember how to do this. I physically don't remember." And that's the kind of thing people are dealing with. And what we aim to do is give them the tools and the ability to get the support, get back on an even keel and function properly again. And that's not a quick fix.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's not.
No. We hear the term mindfulness quite a lot, but what actually is mindfulness, and how can people look after their own mind and their own well-being?
The strict definition of the word mindfulness is to be in the moment, which sounds a bit mumbo-jumbo-ish, but what it means is you can be at that time and place, be it at work or at home, where what's going on in the outside world is no longer overwhelming. So I'm sat here talking to you, and all the things that are going on in the background, the work of my charity, the work of the charity that I'm a chair of, my wife's work, my friends' issues, they're not intruding on my mind. So the trick, and we all have different solutions and different tools in our toolbox, but the trick is learning to utilize whatever works for you to keep those things at bay. I did a mindfulness course 5 or 6 years ago, and the thing that stands in my mind from that was the instructor said to me, "You always have the breath." And I thought, well, what does that mean? And it's basically all you think about for 2 minutes is breathing. and what it feels like. And what it does is it just shuts out the extraneous noise of the rest of the world. I do it a lot, watching the news at the moment and listening to politicians, because all I want to do is punch the screen. So the breath brings you back into the moment, but it just calms everything down. And we try and help people to understand what their tools are. Because, like Sean, those tools at the beginning, you didn't know what they were. For you, it's cycling. For me, it's long distance hiking and writing. But I didn't know what they were 2.5 years ago. I had to learn that.
So for those out there managing a team, how do you recognise mental health issues in others, maybe even before you see it within yourself?
Firstly, listen. Most of it you can predict. So when somebody comes into work and says, I think my wife's going to leave me, well, it doesn't take the brains of a rocket scientist to figure out that's going to lead to problems. Most of us go, oh, that's all right, mate, don't worry about it. You'll get over it. You'll move on. Actually, they won't. It's listening when they talk to you, so you can predict what's coming. Like Tony, I was in the military. I was a Hercules air assault pilot for 20 years. I knew as a flight commander when my guys had problems because I spotted changes in behavior. So you spot the guy that's drinking more, the guy that is late for work, the guy that isn't turning up as well presented or well dressed and prepped for work as they normally do, the guy that always, or the lady that always chats and isn't chatting anymore, the one that is always in a rush to leave. You look for those changes in behavior, and it can go the other way. The quiet person that is talking too much, a bit like I am now in a way. You look for those differences, but the big trick is listen. Don't turn them off. So, for example, when my daughter died and I wanted to talk about Evie, people would change the subject. And all that message that sent back to me was, your daughter doesn't count. And I just got more and more anxious about that. Listen. Even if you don't know what to do, just listen to the people that are talking to you. And then say, you know what, there's people out there that can help, and point them in the right direction, and know that there are charities like us around that can help. So, as a manager, you don't have to get deeply involved. You have to be able to signpost. And that's really quite easy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. Sean and Tony, coming back to you. Tony, if I start with you first, if I may, what kind of tips have you found that help you, that are found really useful for yourself?
The biggest one, I suppose, was over lockdown. Like many of us, all self-employed, suddenly our work dried up, and we maybe enjoyed the first couple of weeks, having the lie-in, spending some time. And then you looked at things and think, I've got bills to pay. There's still not the money coming in. And I wrote to my local MP, like lots of other people, and said, what's going to happen with the self-employed, because the furlough scheme came in. And so lots of people were looked at, and the government were doing their best. And it seemed like self-employed was being forgotten. I got a lovely email back saying, you haven't been forgotten. Just basically watch this space. Then it was announced. I got the email or whatever from HMRC, where I was able to have a look at what I was going to be able to claim. And it made me look at life and that and think, wow, my first year of trading, I worked my butt off. I was almost working every weekend and not spending the time at home because we were too busy working. But then it reflected in how much money I was going to get from the government. I didn't actually earn that much money. And I was like, right, let's just look at life a bit different. I'm sat here now in my camper van on the shores of Loch Carron in West Highland, Scotland. And I did vow that, or before lockdown, that I was going to use my camper van at least once a month, that I'd been spending time. But then I decided even more, I will take time out for my own personal health and my personal life. like Bryan, ex-military. I was married for 18 years. That marriage broke down due to work, military life. And I don't want to let it happen again, because there's those pressures elsewhere and you forget your family. And I could be working now, but I'm not. I sort of made that vow. We are going away. I'm not going back to work till October. Beginning of. I've been fortunate that we sort of saved up the money that I can go away, but that's the biggest thing. And I've just got into mountain biking. Again, I'm a level. I gained my instructor's qualification many years ago, and when the mental health deteriorated, life literally stopped. And like Sean said, he goes out on his bike, and the physical. Bryan goes out hill walking. And that's sort of things I love. We've both just brought e-bikes. Anna's God knows how many miles down the lot now with the dog on her bike. Mine's on the back. And unfortunately, some people, that mental health recovery trip is a long time. And mine has been. Sometimes I wish the doctor had said to me, it's not just going to be a couple of months and a couple of tablets. It could be a number of years, but they probably don't say that because that seems extremely scary, I think, to somebody that suddenly has been diagnosed with depression, PTSD, to be told that you're not going to feel great again for years. But I've taken on a role within Scouts now, so I'm Northamptonshire's manager for mountain biking for Scouts. A bit slow at the moment, obviously because of COVID, but that's something else that's given me a kick up the bum and something worth to give back to the kids, and the support's there from the Scouts as well, and the enthusiasm's there, which is what I want. To put the effort in and to feel wanted, and that it's needed. COVID's made a lot of change. Man, I was only listening to the radio this morning saying a lot of people want to change careers because of COVID. They want to be able to work at home because of COVID. Now that they spend more time with family. I've just visited a friend near Glasgow, who's funny enough my old boss. He left the Army Reserves literally a few weeks before me because of a bad boss. He runs his own company now, but he's been called up and he's worked on military liaison with the Scottish government. And he's juggling 2 jobs at the moment, but he's so much happier. He's running his own life, but he does do a lot of work from home and the laptop. So I think big change for lots of people out there because of this situation.
Yeah.
Hopefully good for the good.
Yeah, I think so. I think from that, I'm going to take for you the tools that you use to manage yourself is having a little goal to go away and enjoy yourself. And so that sounds, and to give some value to yourself by giving back to something. So having these little goals and feeling value sound quite important tools. So that's a great tip for the rest of us as well, to be perfectly honest. So Sean, over to you now, if I may. What's lockdown taught you to look after yourself?
Yeah, through lockdown, I had my daughter come to stay with me because her mother is a key worker, and for the first few weeks of lockdown, we were trying to get into a routine. And then I got approached by a local charity here in Watford that were looking for volunteers to distribute food and food parcels and essential medicines and stuff like that to those self-isolating in the community, and through lockdown, and now even this afternoon, I'm going to be going out with the charity to deliver some food parcels again to people who are struggling in the community, to to get out for one reason or another, to deliver. And it's just given me it gave me a purpose and a focus during lockdown. And certainly now, I really look forward to doing to going out helping those less fortunate. I realise when I as Bryan said about mindfulness, now I'm getting back to a stronger mental health. I can see the things that I know are important to me, like cycling, like volunteering, and I really. They're good for hopefully the people that I'm supporting and I'm cycling with, but they're also good for me.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have to be a little bit selfish, don't we? Sometimes we do have to put ourselves first and learn to recognise that we are important and we need to take care of ourselves as well as other people. Yes, it's very nice looking after other people, but sometimes we forget to look after ourselves, don't we?
Well, we do, and luckily, again, the Dulux Colour Your World with Kindness scheme that I joined through lockdown was just brilliant. It was really, really good to be part of that community and seeing other like Tony, like other Dulux people connected with Dulux were going out and helping those less fortunate.
Yeah, no, a very worthwhile thing, a positive that has come out of the lockdown, to be perfectly honest with you. Though, and Bryan, with the lockdown in mind, do you think that 2020 in general has made you aware of your own mental health and how strong you are?
Yes, it has. It's one of the things that it's done is it's made me aware that I'm not alone. I mean, something that Tony said, which struck a chord just now, is a lot of painters and decorators are self-employed. They might be on their own physically, a one-man band. So they don't have a line manager to keep an eye out for them. And if you do think, there's no work coming in, or I've got an issue, I've got a problem, I've got nobody to talk to. One of the things I've learned very quickly is you are genuinely not alone, because there are hundreds of other people out there in the same boat. What you need to do and what you can do is get a buddy, get a mentor, get somebody out there to keep an eye on you. I'm the CEO of a small charity. I haven't seen my work colleagues physically face to face since March. They might say that's a good thing, but hey, but the point is, I got in touch with one of my trustees and said, I want you to keep an eye on me. I want you to look for the changes in me. If you see something you don't like, tell me. I might be losing my temper more often. I might become a bit short and clipped on emails. Whatever. You need a buddy. You need somebody to keep an eye on you. And the whole thing about isolation is, you can be in a crowd and still be lonely, but when you take the crowd away, you're alone and lonely. So lockdown has taught me very clearly that actually you're not alone, because you can overcome that problem. You can get people to work with you and sit alongside you. And actually, the best person for me to talk to is a mate. And it might be finish the day and go and have a beer. Or like this morning, before this recording, I rang a mate and went, you know what, I really need a coffee. I just need to unload for an hour. So I drove 10 miles, I met him for a coffee, and we had a chat, and we whinged about everything under the sun. And I went, thanks very much. And I came home.
Brilliant.
And that's the way it works.
Yeah, definitely. I think we can all feel that sometimes.
Yeah.
Touching on from that, Tony, yes, you're a sole trader, but you're also a member of the Dulux Select Decorator scheme. How do you feel that the scheme itself has approached mental health and well-being, and how has it supported you and your business?
I think it's done the perfect thing. It approached us as members and said, would people be interested in having this, rather than we're doing this? It's asked, do we want it? And it got a good response. We were then asked, would there be a number of courses that would be run, paid for by Dulux, and I know they're not cheap. but they'll be run for the select members at zero cost down at Slough. Unfortunately, I missed mine because my van broke down, so I spent the day on the M40. But so fortunately, I'm trained via my time in my last job that I had in the military, and I know that there's almost like there is a queue of people that want to do the training and want to understand. And like Sean said, you know, he was down the other week, and I sent him a couple of messages, and so it works. And you don't know. Everybody's different. It might just be a sounding board where people can put a text message or put a message up on the group. We see things that the customer has done X and Y. They want this, they want that. And sometimes those customers stress us out. And we're like, why did I take that job on? And that causes that excess stress that Bryan says that's in the background, which then affects us. But having the forum on Facebook, the guys put up there, and they can just bat it off and say, "Oh yeah, I've had that one," or right, or possibly give a solution. And I think not just the select one, the Academy page is a really nice one. That whatever you put on there, there's always nice answers. It's not, well, why are you a decorator? Why are you doing that? Have you tried this? Oh, that's caused by X, Y, and Z. So it's a big learning platform, but it's a support forum as well that we got within Select and the Academy. That is that help that somebody wants, because the last thing you want to do if you're having trouble is somebody putting you down, because you should be professional. And it's gone wrong, because it will go wrong for everybody at some point in their career.
Most definitely. No matter how professional we are, how much experience we've got, how highly skilled we are, some days we just don't know what to do, and some days we do get it wrong. So it's not a bad thing sometimes, but we still all do need that support, don't we? And by the sounds of it, Select has been there and tried to address that. You being decorators that are predominantly one-man bands, but you're not alone. So hopefully that supported you.
Indeed.
Cool. Sean, you're a trained mental health first aider, but Bryan was saying that it's good being able to listen. That's one of the most important tools that we can have, is just listening to people. But how do we get people to open up? That you've maybe highlighted that they may have a few stressful issues going on, but how do you get people to actually talk so you can listen to them?
Yeah, I guess what I found, particularly over the last sort of couple of weeks, is that I guess the people that rang me up once I posted on Facebook last Friday, that they were like, God, I wouldn't have seen that in you, and they're like, but you're always like relentlessly positive. And I said, but again, it's as Tony said right at the beginning of this, it's okay not to feel okay, and just to be able to say that yes, I've had my mental health episode 5-6 years ago, but it's and I've got the techniques, I've got the things in place, but it's okay to fall, it's okay to fail, but hopefully by reaching out to people and to say, do you know what, we're all human, we're all going to have little moments in our life, to be able to say, do you know what, almost like reaching out to people in the Select community, to be able to say, do you know what, I need a little bit of help, almost like who's out there. And it was the most amazing feeling last Friday evening when I went to bed, to think, do you know what, I had the 3 or 4 people ringing me up saying to me, do you know what, I'm there, I'm there for you, Sean. Like, don't let it get you down again. And they followed that up this week with another phone call, just saying to me, "Do you know what? Again, how's your week been?" And it's like, wow. Like, I've always felt blessed with what I've got, but this week particularly has made me even more appreciative of the Dulux Select scheme because of the as Tony said, by his messages and by the phone calls I've had, just to know that we as a select community are there not just to help in our business, but to help us in our mental health.
Oh, brilliant. And Bryan, can I ask you the same? You're probably more qualified than anyone here at all to be able to recognise some of these things that might be affecting people. So how do you get people to try and open up so you can help them?
The biggest thing for me is encouraging trust. I've got a small circle of friends that I will use and I will talk to. And they all have different strengths and weaknesses, but right back, if you take it right back to a couple of years ago, I had to know that I would tell them something in complete confidence and that it wasn't going to end up on the gossip tree, if you like, and that everyone would find out. So it's about encouraging trust. It's about people taking it slowly and doing things when they are ready. And Tony said right just now about how Dulux Select ask them, what do you want? That's the trick. It's about asking people what help they need, not telling them what you think they need. If you've not been there, you won't get it. Mental health difficulties, people will go, it's a weakness. So if they've not experienced it, they won't understand. So people have to trust that you're not going to judge them. When they understand that you're not going to judge them and that you're only going to offer assistance and guidance and listen, that will encourage them to unload and talk to you and take it slowly. I mean, the one thing that we've not really touched on yet and is incredibly important in this field is talking to your GP. Make sure your GP is your first port of call because they are tapped into a world of help. And that might be counsellors, it might be antidepressants. Antidepressants aren't for everybody, but it might be that's what it takes. It might just be that you just need to know somebody's there as an anchor, somebody that you can have I'm talking in cliches now, as a safety net, that if something goes horribly wrong, you can pick up the phone. I know with some of my very close friends, some of my anchors, I can pick up the phone at 3:00 in the morning and I know they will answer the phone and listen. They might swear at me after they put the phone down and gone back to bed, but they will listen and not turn me away. And it's encouraging people to find that level of friendship, that level of trust. And once they've taken that first step, and it's a little step, then they'll take the next one, which might be a bit bigger. But they've got to do it in their own time when they're ready. Because if you push, they'll dig their heels in and they won't move. And then it just gets worse.
Yeah, no, that's. I think that's a very important key part there is don't push people into opening up, isn't it? They have to be as natural and as they want it to be. So, no, that's a very good point. Thank you. Gents, our regular feature is the Tools of the Trade feature. As I said last week, we know a decorator is nothing without their tools. So before we finish, we want to know what's the one tool that you couldn't do without to do your job. So Sean and Tony first, being the decorators, what's the one tool? It could be an actual tool, it could be a particular type of paintbrush or something else that supports your business in any way. So Sean, what's that one thing that you can't do without?
Well, it's funny enough, it is a paintbrush. It's clearly as a painter and decorator, we need our we need our brushes and rollers. But yeah, I discovered the Corona brush quite late actually, quite recently.
6 months ago.
Sorry?
Don't say 6 months ago.
Well, yeah, no. But yeah, I guess it's changed the way that I'm a bit of a dinosaur, and I've used whereas a lot of other decorators were using acrylic formulations long before I transferred over from oil based, and but discovering Corona brushes helped me transfer from oil-based to acrylic formulations far quicker.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm very thankful for finding Corona brushes. I think that's my tool of the trade.
Well, you get a thumbs up from me because they're my personal brand as well. So brilliant.
Yeah.
Tony, how about yourself?
My tool of the trade was a difficult one. I did think about my apprentice because he's a very good apprentice, as you guys will know from the awards. But I'm going to go for the masking gun or masking guns, because we have 4. And we just couldn't be without them when it comes to spraying. Most of our work is done by airless spray or HVLP. And to get that, you get that perfect finish, but not to get the paint or the overspray everywhere else, then obviously it requires to be masked up. So we have 4 guns, one with 6-inch brown paper, one with 12-inch brown paper, and then the other 2 have got tape and drape on them. One's normally the sort of 8-foot tape and drape for doing doors and windows, and then we normally have either a 2-foot or a 4-foot tape and drape, and lots of different tapes for different surfaces. Yeah, but yeah, definitely couldn't be without them. Try how anybody even succeeds in taping up without using a masking gun, I don't know. But yeah, that's definitely one of the ones that's always in the van. We've got our own dedicated toolbox that's just for taping up. Got all the guns and all the tapes in.
Brilliant. No, a very worthwhile piece of kit. Definitely, I'll definitely concur with that. I'm just chuckling to myself here because Brian's expressions as you were going masking gun, tape and drape, drop cloths is like, you might as well have been speaking in German. He wouldn't have understood it any better. So, yeah, just particular aspect tools that we have. But Bryan, you must have some quite important tools that you have, but what would be the one that you kind of pull out of the box and you know that that's the one that you need all the time with you?
Resilience, to be honest. Charity sector right now, tough world. Really, really tough world. I was on a call this morning. Sector's looking at 60,000 redundancies in the charity sector. And you know what? Resilience is the thing you pull out of the box. That's the thing that you say, know what? No matter what, just going to keep plugging at this and just going to keep going. And it comes right back to what we've been talking about. It's about having a purpose, having a role in life, knowing what you want to achieve, and just not giving up. Because there are days when you get up and you think, I really can't be bothered with this. So a bit of resilience goes an awful long way.
No, that's brilliant. I'm not going to argue with that at all. I think we all need a little bit of resilience, definitely. So thank you to Tony, thank you to Sean, and thank you to Bryan. It's been great to speak to you about all 3 of you today. So thank you very much for joining me. Thank you, chaps.
Thank you too, Tony. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
We've just heard an amazingly open and honest conversation. The one piece I'm going to take from that is we need to listen and we need to be able to hear what people are saying, so we can all support each other and hopefully start to look after our own mental health. That's all for this week. I'll be back in 2 weeks' time with our next podcast, where we'll be discussing the phrase that we've all heard so much over the last few months, the new normal. Take care and stay safe.